Law is a system and rules that must be followed by all human beings, no matter what, no matter how small the rule up to the size of a law like the law in a country, it must be followed. Usually, when these rules are violated, they will be punished by the court. In other perspective, Sharia law is a comprehensive religion that covers the law in daily life. Sharia is the law of Allah SWT, which is enshrined the main source of law for all Muslims. From a different point of view, Orientalists claim that Islam is a false religion and created by Prophet Muhammad SAW. Orientalists also consider Islam to be a cultural religion produced by the Arab community in the Middle East. Orientalist views mostly show a doubtful point of view, so that almost all writing on Islam are based on biased views and deviated from the historical fact of Islam itself, putting the logical approach of reason at a high level to the point that all the traditions, manners, and procedures of knowledge and Islamic law can be questioned its validity. Our research objectives are, firstly, to identify meaning of the Orientalism, second, to study the importance of Islamic law towards Islamic belief, third, to identify the impact of Islamic law based on Orientalist view. Next, for the problem statement, firstly, Western Orientalists study Islam by using a higher criticism approach. According to Goldheiser, this approach is used to prove errors found in Christianity, then has extended its use to Islam. Secondly, many Western Orientalists who are no longer veiled voicing their opinion against Islam. All this should not be underestimated by Muslims today, because it is a great threat and a reason to continuity of Islamic law, which can mislead and destroy the Muslims themselves.
Today, I will talk about the importance of Islamic law towards Islamic belief, which is the chapter 2 in our study, and I will talk more about the introduction. Islamic law had existed in Malaysia in the year of 1887, and on that year, a rectangle-shaped stone was found in Kuala Berang, Terengganu. Islamic law was established in Malaysia by the 14th century, and most of the Islamic law that has been enacted in the states of Malaysia has developed into an independent legal system substantially different from the strict Islamic law of the Sharia, except in family law. There is also a research found that regarding on how to distinguish the three types of crime in Islamic law, which are the hudud, the qisas, and ta'zir, that usually arouse the confusion among the public. So to assure the confidence of the public, the Sharia courts, their judges, and officers have to show that Islamic law is not only the best law in theory but also the best in practical application. Islam also has its own personal, civil, criminal, constitutional, and international law in Malaysia. Islamic law and customary law were the only of the land long before English law became prominent as under. Plus, each state in Malaysia has its own Sharia court system, which deals with matters relating to Islamic law in which all parties are Muslim. Malaysia also has a dual-track legal system comprised of civil courts running in a parallel with Islamic Sharia court, where Muslim Malays can be tried on religious and moral charge. Sharia is imposed only on Muslims and deals with moral and family matters, and the non-Muslims are required to follow the secular laws that deal with the same matters. Plus, the Islamic laws also covers matters such as morality, inheritance, marriage, and divorce. Furthermore, there are Islamic laws in Malaysia that state anyone who misses Friday prayers 3 weeks in a row can be punished by 6 months in jail. Meanwhile, the smoking, drinking, or eating on the month of Ramadan carry a jail term up to 1 year. Not only that, The government-backed National Fatwa Council is one of Malaysia's highest Islamic bodies, and it bans women from dressing or behaving like men and engaging in lesbian sex, saying it was forbidden by Islam. Last but not least, Islam has its own personal, civil, criminal, evidentiary, constitutional, and international law, and Islam law is using the Quran as the main source, as it contains all the fundamental directive and instruction of Allah SWT. Meanwhile, the Sunnah or Hadith is the second source of Islamic law in Malaysia.
Definition of Orientalism. Orientalism consists of a combination of two words, namely Oriental and Ism. Oriental means East, while Ism is a connecting word that refers to an understanding, teaching, system, attitude, and so on. Orientalism can be defined as an understanding or teaching that is Oriental. Besides that, Orientalism is a way of seeing that image, emphasizing different of Arab people and culture as compared to Europe and the US. It often involves seeing Arab culture as exotic, backward, uncivilized, and at times dangerous. Orientalism is derived from Orient, a Latin word meaning east. This is the opposite of the Occident term. Europa was called the West or Western in terms of the Old World, and the East or the Orient was the farthest from recognized Eastern
Next, I will explain about the biography of Sir Research Oliver Wisted. He was born on 2 August 1878 in Oxford, England. He is a British Orientalist who served in Malaya as a British administrator. During the 30 years of service in Malaya, he has the experience and skill to master and understand the culture of the population in Malaya and the particular Muslim community. Abdul Jalim Borham, 2012. Next, about the Winstead view on Islamic law. Winstead in his work entitled A History of Silver boldly gave an outspoken when he said the land of the which is owned by the Malay Muslim population can be improved with a condition of receiving the influence of the West and considering themselves as the savior of civilization Malaya. He argued that the law customary law and custom temanggung are two types of the different law in the country Malaya. Meanwhile, the former adat pepatih is categorized solely as the genuine law in the Malaya because of no foreign interventions. Winstead at 1988 eventually perceived Islam as a major burden to the consolidated Malay law, especially about the customs, and thus not appropriate for practice in Malaya. To clarify the above argument, the opinion of the Young 2009, he stated they perceive Islam and Malay adat law as irreconcilable and conflicting because Islamic law originated from the different social context, so it could not be practically serve the needs of the Malay. Then he add the colonial writers judged Islamic law as static and arbitrary, and that it has a negative impact upon the traditional Malay law. The opinion given by Chi Yang Yung clearly show awareness of the misconception about Islamic law in Malaya by the West to give a positive side to the people others than the Malay. This awareness is a proof of how the West's assessment in evaluating something related to Islam has an element of the bias and is influenced by the classical Oriental study approach that is clearly very hostile to Islam.
Biography of Joseph Skash. Joseph Skash, a major figure in European and American scholarship on Islam, who is most famous for defining and elaborating upon the origins and early development of Islamic law. He studied classical and Semitic philology and theology at the universities of Breslau and Leipzig. His teachers were Godolf Bergstrasse and Snot Gringi. At the age of 27, he was appointed a full professor of Oriental languages in Germany. He was concerned with a wide range of subjects about the history of Islamic law, usul fiqh, and more. One of the most monumental scientific works is An Introduction to Islamic Law. Joseph Sketch Views on Islamic Law. Joseph Sketch as Orientalist in the study of Islamic law using historically and sociologically specialized studies. Sketch tried to reach many aspects in Islamic law. Based to Joseph Sketch, Islam is not as a set of norms revealed by God, but it is as a historical phenomenon closely related to social settings. In the sense, it examines authenticity, the source of Islamic law through historical process. In his mind too, Joseph Sketch as an Orientalist did not acknowledge the Hadith as one of the source of Islamic law. This widely referenced word give influence to Islamic law, especially easier to recognize in the Western world, but wanted to be aware of that is about his opinion about the Hadith. This can make people non-Muslim attack Muslims by assuming Islamic law is not original. Joseph Sketch had researched and criticized Hadith authenticity. Sketch assumed that Sunnah was not formally from Prophet Muhammad, but it was the continuity of urban tradition which were revised and done continuously by Muslims and hold up to Prophet Muhammad. Sketch assumed that Prophet Sunnah had not been established surely to Hadith. Sketch research was started by studying Islam law establishment process. Then, he concluded that Islam law had not been existed until al-Shafi'i era. Sketch also mentioned that Isnad was part of arbitrariness in Prophet Muhammad Hadith since it was developed by different groups who were expected to relate it to the previous one.
Continue to Snok Hargranje. Christian Snok Hargranje was born on February 8, 1857. He has spent most of his life studying Islamic law at Leiden University. He is an expert in Arabic and Islamic studies. His also study and received attention was his theory of the pilgrimage of Muslims in Mecca. He converted to Islam during his stay and lived in the holy city of Mecca from February until August 1885. Of Snok Hargranje on Islamic law. First is worship and religious ritual. Snok criticized Dutch policies that always hindered the worship and ritual of Muslims. According to Snok, as long as it does not interfere with political power, then the colonial government should be able to give Muslims the freedom to practice their religious teachings. The government should show an attitude as if paying attention to Islam by improving places of worship as well as providing convenience in performing worship. Number 2 is social community. Snok developed an idea of the need to encourage local about tradition. Snok thinks that to reduce the religion of Muslim is to develop custom as a habit with Islamic law. The development of tradition and culture will limit the widespread influence of Islamic teachings, especially those related to laws and regulations. Snok strives for Islamic law to be in line with the cultural tradition and political realities that dominate the life of its adherents. Number 3 is politics. For Snok Hargranje, Islamic politics is something that should be avoided, restricted, and even should be banned. Freedom from political activity will only give birth to religious fanaticism, which is very dangerous to the power of colonialism. The government is allowed to overthrow political Islam when needed, with force and force of arms. However, after gaining peace, the colonial government must provide education, prosperity, and economy so that the narrative belief in the good intention of the colonial government and in the end the Muslims are willing to be ruled.
In conclusion, from the above discussion, it can be concluded that Western Orientalists have a long tried and made a study of Islam with the aim of raising doubt to Muslims about the law, which is one of the source of Islamic law. The Orientalists who always sought to find everything in the Eastern country not only become investigators and sought a knowledge of the East, especially Islam, At the same time, they dominate and conquer physical and non-physically, such as the economy and ideology. The effect of the Oriental influence in the legislation of Islamic affairs have influenced aspects of Islamic life and the country. The undeniable fact will always remain that Orientalism had its powerful impact on the modern Islamic thought, both positively and negatively, whether we should like it or not.